This guy is super happy. The Chiefs go full nuclear on the Trey Smith deal. It is about to be signed. Nuclear is good and bad. We're going to break it all down for you today. Welcome in our guy that's going to actually balance me out. This is Dan Harms. Nice to see you, Dan. A little emergency show from us. You guys are doing well. We have some details, not all of them, but Trey Smith, it looks like it is not signed yet as we record this live, but the deal is imminent, sorting out a couple last minute details. And here are the numbers. I want to get your instant reaction from it. 4 years, a little bit longer than I had expected. $94 million for the highest paid guard in professional football at this point. What do you think?
The big number here is $70 million guaranteed. $70 million. That's a hard number to swallow. That's a hard number to swallow. Honestly, like I said, I was saying last night, I expected him to play on the tag. Happy to be wrong that he'll be in Kansas City. Continuity at the end of the day is the most important thing. You're still there at center. You're still there at right guard. You'll figure everything else out, and hopefully you hit everywhere else, right? That's the idea for behind this with tons of money. $120 million sewn into this offensive line guaranteed over just 2 positions. So you have to hope that this works out. In hindsight, I would have rather had 4 more years of Joe Thuney, 3 more years of Joe Thuney over this money for Trey Smith. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. You are worth whatever team is willing to pay you, and that's at the end of the day, go get your money. That's what this is all about. But for me, it's a bit of a big contract for a guy who doesn't have any All Pros on his deal at all. Only has made 1 Pro Bowl in his career. Those are obviously counting stats, but All Pros are important. Okay, they are important. So I do think he's going to have to get at least 1 or 2 over the length of this contract to actually have it be worth it in the end. But you are paying for the future. You're paying for what he's eventually going to be. You're not really paying for what he's done over the past couple of years. That's honestly what the franchise tag was for. The franchise tag was for, hey, you've been awesome. You've been a fixture of our offensive line for the last 4 years. You were a 6th-round pick. Here is $23 million. Have a great day. And we are going to figure this out. And now this contract is for what are you going to do from now until the end. Protecting Patrick Mahomes is forefront. He's happy. Trey Smith is happy. I'll be fine.
I agree with you. Oxodal, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to give away your personal income information, but hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the support, pal. I've been watching a lot of Red Bull alternative sports lately,
nice.
Particularly diving for a couple of personal reasons. And I will say this, to the point where you put the tag on him, that's the approach down the dive board, right? And you're planted and that thing's coming up. This contract is for what he's about to do in the air before he splashes down into the pool to win a gold medal for the USA and make everything good and great again, right? That said, things can still go wrong in the air. This is, I think, as you said, the guaranteed money is the thing. He was going to get, if the other scenario had played out, likely they would have tried to tag him again and possibly trade him off.
Yeah.
If he had played on a second tag, I'd come in at about a little bit over $50 million in 2 seasons. Now he's going to get 70 over the life of 4 guaranteed. So if something were to go awry, I don't see that as a huge increase or a huge risk. And I don't know that they felt comfortable going into a season without him next year. So I felt like a second tag was possible. Mm-hmm. So that said, I don't think the leap is too much there. But if you don't improve enough, if you don't attain that all-pro level, this will eventually begin to look like the Juwan Taylor deal, where potential was there, but didn't live up to it. I feel like if Trey continues to play with his nasty streak and his cerebral approach to the game, a little bit lighter, I think would be good for him. Improve his foot quickness, not speed down the field, but quickness in the phone booth. I think he can attain that all-pro status. So I do see what the Chiefs are seeing in there's possible upside here.
Yeah, there was always upside. Obviously, he still hasn't reached it. And that's one of the things about the give and take of an organization with this type of decision to make is like, we know there's more there. We know that there's more between not just, the ears for Trey Smith, but what he can actually become as a player. And they are consistently trying to do that with the contracts that they've brought in. And I thought, the Jalen Moore one was more of a, we don't really know, but we don't want to give you a ton of money. The Christian Fulton was, we think that there's more here, but we're not going to give you a ton. This one is, we believe you're going to get to it. And unabashedly, much like they thought Frank Clark, Jawan Taylor, those guys were going to get to their ceilings. It didn't happen for them. Hopefully it happens for Trey Smith. And at the end of the day, again, the cap's going up. I don't necessarily care about the cap space, but this opens up some this year for the ability to get Trent McDuffie after another domino fell on the cornerback market just a few minutes ago.
Right.
Gardner getting his contract. So it's good for the Chiefs to be able to go and obviously create cap space for them this year, get Trey Smith under contract for the next 4 seasons. It's a lot of money. And hopefully he can get a couple of all pros and we can all just laugh at this and say, hey, it was funny that we thought it might not even be up there.
I will tell you this. It all comes down to perception, right? And here's probably, I'm going to try to put this up on screen here shortly, Dan. As you said, what's the most important thing that this ties into the Chiefs' organizational philosophy?
Yeah, it's got to do with how they structure their, I guess, team. Is they bring in players and then they pay them for what they can be. We've seen this like forever. It's not just been now, it's been years ago when Brett Veach took over. They make swings. And regardless of whether Trey Smith really was a 6th round pick, we know he was a day 2 player. Like, we all know he was a day 2 player. It was the medical stuff that brought him down. But this is what we talk about with it being an organizational thing, is that they will almost always believe in the upside of players, almost always. And that can be a detriment at times. And we've seen it be a detriment with multiple big money contracts. The problem is we got some money to play around with the next couple of years, where Netflix, YouTube, TV, Peacock are all vying for exclusivity, which is going to not only drive the price of the cap up, but continue to build different ways for the NFL to increase revenue, for teams to increase revenue, and to get more money for that. So the thing about the Chiefs is that they don't use void years. They refuse to use void years on contracts, so they won't get creative that way. We've seen that be a place where the Eagles, the Saints, teams that are constantly up against the cap, find ways to get creative. The Chiefs don't do that. They use the space they have and they backload contracts. We'll see how this is structured, but I expect the same, for it to be backloaded. But with $70 million guaranteed of 94, there's not much room for wiggle right there.
I completely agree with you. And there's a couple of things that stand out there, but it goes back to, I kind of see Brett Veach as a hedge fund manager. He is willing to bet on upside and future projection based on his room. The guys that scout, the guys that do the physical evaluations, all the metrics that I show you every draft cycle, they are still willing to bet on that. And that is sometimes a gamble, but it's an educated one. In the end, that philosophy pays off in getting what you want overall, and that is this, not for this particular screen, but let me get to...
We're starting soon, guys.
We are starting soon. Like, I meant to hit this one, which is now not presenting me either. So we got some StreamYard issues today, folks, is what I'm saying. Boom.
We got it.
This is what we're looking for. At the end of the day, you got to keep this guy happy. You got to keep him upright. And all of this goes into feeding that particular goal in mind. Because as we've talked about, where Patrick goes, this team goes. You can't go anywhere without him. And so if you're going to invest in one singular thing, maybe not position, but thing on this roster, it is giving Patrick Mahomes what he needs to be Patrick Mahomes to the nth degree. That's what it comes down to. And yes, is it high? Yes. They gave Joe Tooney the highest left guard contract ever at the time. They gave Creed Humphrey the most money at center ever at that time. They're giving Trey the same thing right now. They are not scared of paying for the future. So far, I would argue then on the interior, it's paid off for them. The question marks at tackle, I believe, are a different game. And so from risk perspective, they feel like if they're justified and they like the guy, they're not having a problem with it. The problem that does come is if you make a misstep at one point, I go back to like the Anthony Hitchens signing. Not Anthony Hitchens, sorry. I'm not trying to call him out. I shouldn't have done that. When you make a signing and you don't live up to the contract, we'll say Juwan at this point. A lot of fans are ready for Juwan Taylor to walk out the door now because you have the possibility of Jalen Moore, right? That's not the way it works. You have to be prepared. If that does, this could be nuclear in that the guarantee, which, interestingly enough, is $7 million more than Hunt got a season ago. That's way more than the normal incremental uptick, right? Like, usually you come in $1 million over what the last guy got as the greatest guarantee ever, right? That willingness could come back to hurt you. That's the risk here for the Chiefs. If this nuclear sub boils down, it's likely because you are stuck behind some of that. If Trey has some kind of relapse or if he has some kind of injury, that's the risk. I think it's an educated risk, but it is still a risk that we need to identify and recognize.
Yeah, we can't go into every conversation, or at least most players that are healthy, about injuries. Like we front offices can't put that into the evaluation process because at the end of the day, he could get hurt tomorrow. Like that doesn't, like this football, like he could literally walk into the first day of training camp and get hurt regardless of that. Like, I think you still have to vary over what he's done to this point, what he's going to be able to get to, and you have to be able to find that middle ground. I don't think this is middle ground by any stretch, but I think it's the problem, right? That's the problem with Robert Hunt getting the contract he got. Again, well deserved, very good, very, very good guard. Then you look at Dan Moore signing that contract with the Titans. In no way, shape, or form deserved that contract. And I'm not saying Trey doesn't deserve to get paid, because he absolutely does. When you are an Iron Man, when you still consistently show that you are, I would say he's a top 10 guard in the NFL. I would say so. But the problem is you're now paying him as the best. But that's always going to be the thing. That's always the process. And we have to try not to get mad about players that are top 10 at their position getting paid like the best, because that is just a fact of the NFL. Like we have to remember that. So part of the evaluation process is always going to be, he's going to get paid like the best. 2 years from now, what does that contract look like compared to the rest of the guards in the NFL? That's what we have to go into. Okay. So I know some of you are going to be either really, really mad about it or really, really happy about it. 2 years from now, we'll all have a much better idea of the contract, of how it looks, how he's playing in comparison to the rest of the market around guard as it continues. Offensive line has become so much more important over the past few years as quarterbacks have become the faces of the franchise, as offenses are leading the way. So it's only fair that guards, along with tackles, get compensated for being a big part of protecting said quarterback.
Yeah. I think of it as this way, and I like where you were going there. Think of it as a Ferris wheel. You got to be top 12 at your position to get on the Ferris wheel. You get in at the bottom.
Yep.
When it's your turn, you rise all the way up to the top, and then you come back down again, and somebody else takes the top slot.
Yep.
If you're paying a guy that you feel is in the top 12, then you're okay. You jumped into that game, and this is part of how that part of the game is played, and that's all right. To Dane's point, I think the bigger issue is how it fits within the offensive line group, because as much as we go over positional needs, positional prowess, what a guy can do at his spot, he is one of five. This is the fist of this offense, right? If you take it as the whole of what the offensive line unit can do, there are ebbs and flows. Rookies help. Kingsley Suamataia might be a starter this year. Josh Simmons might be a starter this year on rookie contracts. That allows you to balance out the cost of this year, Juwan Taylor, next year, Moore, Trey, Creed. And that together means that as a unit across the league, yes, you're up there with the top of them, but you're not outlandishly like way out there in left field. And I think as a whole for the organization and managing the cap and managing the rosters, that allows you to recover from this if a misstep is made. And honestly, if he plays 2 years on this, they might have to extend it and do it again because of that Ferris wheel.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, right? And to your point, everyone, yeah, I think Samuel, I was wrong, and I'm totally happy being wrong. Like that's the part about this job is that one, especially on my side, I don't have the benefit of sources, so I'm never going to have that right now, right? Like that's not it. I get to make educated guesses based off of information that is out there at the readiness, and that's what we're trying to do here. So while personally I might not be like fully happy with the contract numbers, I can also give you guys an objective analysis of what it looks like to the organization. So we have to do this like balancing act, and I'll get called out for being wrong or not not happy about this, but also I understand why the organization did this. I understand why they did it. We'll try to do our best to give you guys the real breakdown of what it looks like. So when we are talking about numbers and cap space and the team, I guess, philosophy, those are all things that you can garner based off of past contracts, things like that. This is another one of those things that the Chiefs consistently do. I think they wanted to try, and at the end of the day, they were just like, you know what, we'll see what it looks like in a few years, and they just went ahead and they paid him, and that's so we'll see about overall what this looks like with the details come out over the next few days. The difference between like this and the Sauce Gardner one is that Trey Smith was at the end of his contract. There's no years to spread this out over. So like for instance, Sauce Gardner got his contract extension while he still has 2 years left on his contract. If Trent McDuffie gets extended, he still has 2 years on that contract that you can evenly spread it out. So the contract might look big, like Sauce's does, 4 years, $120 million. But it is extended on the life of the 2 years he already has on his rookie deal. It will be the same for a Trent McDuffie situation. So that's just something to think about for that. But in regards to Trey Smith, like this is, again, at the end of the day, I wanted to see him in Kansas City because they said, Joe, you're going to go protect Caleb Williams and you're going to help him start his career in Chicago. And the Chiefs chose Trey Smith. You can't lose both. You cannot lose both.
And they erred on the side of youth, and I can't blame them for that. You come from a unit that's been in all these Super Bowls. You got to retain what you can from it. That's institutional knowledge and experience that you can't let go. So yeah. I can't blame them. Beach, I don't think this changes anything. I think they still keep 10 offensive linemen when they go to the 53-man roster. Having him in-house doesn't really change the fact that you're unsettled at 2 left side positions, and you need to be making sure that no matter what, no matter how many injuries you have, that you have enough to go to war all the way to the Super Bowl with an intact offensive line is what I meant to say there.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up. Angie, thank you for your support. Appreciate thank you, Nick. I love Trent, but he's not going to get a Sauce contract, right? $30 million, as Dan just said. You never know. Get used to this term, new money, because that's what that is. If the Chiefs extend him in the next 3 months, say during the season even, that will be a new money divider versus what that 5th-year option is going to be. I don't think he pulls in that much. I think he probably deserves as much as Sauce, but I don't think it happens. Do you?
I will. I do believe it's going to happen only because he's got more all pros. He has more all pros at 2 different positions than Sauce Gardner has. Like the Chiefs can't look him in the eye and say, sorry, you're not as good as Sauce Gardner is. But he's like, but I have 2 Super Bowls and I have 2 all pros. What? You think I'm not better than he is? And look at, we could just show him tape from 2 last Super Bowl, from 2 Bowls ago, saying, hey, look, without this pass breakup, we lose the game here. Without this tackle, without this deflection that he caused on a 3rd and 4, the 49ers probably win the Super Bowl. No, I prevented that from happening. And so I deserve that money.
Yeah. Without that sack, without that blitz that I pulled off perfectly.
Exactly.
There are a number of things that could. I don't know if it's the market or whatever. I feel like it comes in right about the same, maybe a touch less. That's just me. Maybe that's just Trent giving a hometown discount because he wants to stay with a winning program. We'll see. Maybe. That's Sauce. You got paid. Good luck. You're still a Jet, bro. I hate to tell you. And Nexato, we're going to finish with you. Thank you for the support. With all the streaming money pouring in, wouldn't we see bigger and crazier contracts? I appreciate what you're saying. I don't know that bigger. Yes. I don't know about crazier because I see this as a measured risk. And I think that's what we're going to see more teams do is take risk that they feel have a better chance of coming to fruition because they know there's more and more streaming money coming. There's more and more outlet money coming. We've been surprised 2 years running about how high the cap jumps. I think teams are starting to bet on that, and that may bite them in the end, but probably not for a while.
You know, it's going to be fun to see what happens. I think over the next 5 years, we are going to see some pretty crazy things in terms of the cap, and maybe not necessarily craziness with contracts, but guaranteed money. That's going to be the thing to look at for specific players. If you're one of the best, you're going to get a lot of guys might get close to fully guaranteed contracts. It might be that it might start to get to that point if we're talking about a really hugely expanding salary cap. But to Samuel's point down here, I also wonder if we're seeing this because Patrick Mahomes has already told them, when my contract's ready, like, when you guys are maxed out, we're going to rip this up, and I make tons of money off the field. So do what you got to do. I'll do what I have to do to make this work. I feel like, Ryan's been mentioning this for a while now, but it does feel like Patrick is going to sit back and wait and see, okay, Trey got paid. Awesome. I love that. Trent McDuffie's coming up. Let's see what his number is. And then at the end of the day, oh, by the way, guys, rip mine up, start it anew, and then push all of that stuff down at the end. We don't have to worry about it.
I mean, he told Kay Adams a couple weeks ago, I've been talking to Tom Brady all summer. And what did Tom Brady do? He took less money so that he could stay a winner. And I completely agree with you. I think that's where it's going. We'll have that debate another time. We got to get out of here, folks. You have a great afternoon. We'll have more for you. I'll give you a piece here later tonight. Don't miss that. And Dan has his piece on Jaden Hicks for tomorrow. I'm pretty pumped about that. So I'm ready to see it. Have a great day, Dan. Thanks for jumping on the middle.
Yeah, of course. We got to make sure you guys get updated with this stuff as it happens. And came right down to the wire, but it's done.
All right, let's get it. All right, have a great day, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.